while ago and it's just spinning.
It's just now it's live.
There we go.
Live. We have had technical difficulties up the wazoo today.
Yay! We are go. Wellington. Welcome everyone to the Unready room. Unready as always. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, is Brandi Jackola. Brandi. Oh boy. Yeah. How are you doing this week?
Fine.
Yeah, me too. That's about the look. Oh boy.
Yeah, this pretty much describes my life right now.
Oh, well, virtual hugs being sent through the internet. They'll probably be a little jittery and maybe a little frozen when they get there, but they're going through the internet.
Yeah, they're going to break up along the way and then possibly later will reform into some semblance.
Oh, man. Well, welcome everyone. We are here today talking about Season 3, Episode 8 of Star Trek Picard. The episode is titled Surrender, which is, we only have 2 more episodes after this till the end of the season. Luckily, because of that cliffhanger last week where they said, it's time that Jack finds out who he is, we get all those questions answered this episode and learn so much more.
So much. But
I mean, it's not like this episode ends on the exact same cliffhanger last week's did, does it?
Oh, wait.
Okay, I sound really, really annoyed, but I actually really enjoyed this episode. And
yes, same.
We'll get into it for sure. So,
yeah. Yes, we will.
Did that frustrate you though, too, Brandi? I'm assuming.
So much. Although I did see it coming, it still frustrated me so much. And so now we've got 2 episodes left, and you know that between episodes 9 and 10, there's going to be a major cliffhanger again. There.
Yeah.
But at least it's only a 1-week cliffhanger because, every time Star Trek does something like this, I just, go back to my trauma of Best of Both Worlds. And it just, it just all comes back to me. And then I'm just rocking in my chair and just telling myself, it's only a week. It's only a week.
The first cliffhanger in Star Trek that I experienced live, because I was watching the show at the time, was actually Time's Arrow at the end of season 5. And that was kind of a lovely cliffhanger. I didn't mind that. It was like they were going back in time to go find Data, and that's where it ended. And it was just like, oh, I can't wait to see what they find on the other side. Yeah. It wasn't so much like there's a member of the cast who's now the worst enemy in the Federation's history. And it wasn't quite on that level, thankfully.
Yeah, and this whole thing with the deflector dish that turned out to be nothing.
Yep. All right, well, let's get into this one. So the cliffhanger we had at the end of last week's episode was Vadic taking control of Titan and promising Jack he'll find out who he is, but we'll put that aside. This episode starts out, and Amanda Plummer as Vadic is just like dialed up to 11 in this episode. And this episode starts with her killing a lot of people.
Murdering so many.
Oh,
there was only a skeleton crew anyway. So what's left? The bridge crew? It's pretty much it.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's a few still hiding out. We did see, when Jack takes over that one security officer and he's looking around, there are a few people that are cowering, and hopefully they made it. And we get several sequences though of people hiding and like a changeling coming up behind them with a weapon and it cutting away. Not so good. Oh, David, ouch. Dark humor, love it. Yep.
That's my husband, y'all. That's my husband. Love of my life. My heart.
Yeah.
Bringing it like he always does.
Oh man. So yeah, we've got Vatic locking up the ship systems, taking away everyone's eyes, and as she says, and killing a lot of people. We've got Jack, like I said, trying to connect and does so with its security officer. And I kind of enjoyed this with Sydney kind of standing there knowing what he's doing, and like Jean-Luc and Beverly kind of being like, what's going on here, Jack? You okay? And it's interesting that ability of his. I'm not sure exactly what to call it. I guess in this episode he calls it he's able to connect to people and control them and stuff. So connecting, I guess that's kind of a good label to put on it. I was like telepuppetry last week. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, telemanipulation. I don't know what
Mhm.
you would call that. Dave, come up with a word for that. He'll have one.
So that's happening on the Titan. Meanwhile, we've also got Riker and Troy on the Shrike, and it was nice to pick up on that. We didn't get anything of Riker or Troy last week, except for the changeling mimicking Riker on the view screen. He, Jonathan Frakes put in an appearance for that episode, but that was it. This week, we get this deep exploration of the two of them, and I think that's a good place to really start with this episode, is the whole Riker Troy thing.
Sure.
I loved a lot of what was going on between them, and this kind of explanation of what's been happening emotionally with them with regards to the death of Thad and these things that Riker has been referring to throughout the season. Wanting to get away and feeling things for the first time, and what's that all about. And we kind of find out that Troy, with the best of intentions, was trying to take some of the burden away from Riker and his pain away. But I just made this connection now. As Captain Kirk says in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, I need my pain, and that's a human condition thing. You need to grieve. You need to have that time to process that. And Troy in this episode says, I forgot the first rule of being a counselor, which is you can't jump to being healed. You have to go through the process. And that was, I'd love to watch this with my mom, who's a counselor, because I'm really curious about her insights on all of this. It felt very... Star Trek sometimes does really pop psychology. This felt more than that. This felt deeper and made more sense.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Grief, we've talked about grief a lot, and because of episodes of Star Trek and characters dealing with grief, and grief is never the same experience twice, and it's never the same for each person. There is no timetable. There is no roadmap. You just have to go through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Going to the more lighter side of what's going on, I love Deanna's like, oh, I'm Zadi. Jeez, like, why didn't I teach you another word? Like, that's all you ever say. That was cute.
What was the word? Yontaru? Was Yontari?
Yintaru?
Yontari?
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Baby of
means
immense.
basically big baby.
Yep.
Big baby.
I almost put baby of immense size as my guess, but I couldn't pass up Cabal of Retro Prairie hipsters. It's so good.
I know. And a very judgy foyer.
By the way, Stephen Fothery, I think it was.
Hi. How are you,
Welcome.
sir? Hi.
Here it is. Perfect. Mind jacking.
Mind
jacking. I mean, come on. Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. There's actually Dave earlier in the thread said that it was in a lot of superhero games, it's usually called domination.
Mm-hmm. No.
But you can call it whatever you want. I like mind jacking, so let's just go with that.
just the play on the name. It's so great. It's so great. And speaking of Stephen, thank you so much. Very, very generous, very kind, and happy Easter weekend to all who celebrate, and to you as well. Very happy to have some time off. So,
Yeah, we don't get that here. We don't
oh
do
really?
Easter Monday. Yeah, we don't do Easter
Oh
Monday.
yeah, no, we don't either. Just Good Friday,
We
I
don't do
think.
we don't do that either. I
Oh
mean,
really?
it's on the calendar, but nobody
Mhm.
gets time off for any of it.
Well, I'm also teaching right now, so I have the next week off,
Ooh.
which as a substitute teacher isn't as good because that
Mm.
just means you don't get paid for a week.
Yeah, that does
It's
suck.
we're not salaried or anything. It's just the days we work is the days we get paid for. So yeah, it's a little less fun, but that's okay. I had a bad day on Thursday, so I'm happy to have a week off.
I understand. I truly do.
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, we kind of hinted at it as well. Riker and Troy's absolute trashing of Nepenthe. As much as I love that episode, I kind of loved this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. That was fun. I liked the idea of Troy being kind of city folk. She's more
Mm-hmm.
cosmopolitan. She misses people. She misses Roctigino lattes. The pastoral setting, it was nice, but it didn't seem to fit them. So I get this.
Yeah, me too. It's I loved Riker's reaction when she's just like, I don't like living there. He's just
Well,
like,
I
what?
don't.
I don't either. And then how they bonded again over that thing. And we're just going off on all the terrible things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And this was one of my favorite lines. And Riker just like, oh, just like me then. Yeah. Because what Troy says
Oh.
next, they both knew. When Troy
Mhm.
says, no, like we knew that he was a changeling as soon as he was there. There
Mhm.
was no, you can't you can't you can't fake that kind of relationship that they have.
Yeah.
So I liked
And
that. I
even
appreciated that.
can't really read changelings. She knows her
Mhm.
husband. She has known Riker for how many decades now? So yeah,
Yeah.
trying to replace him, that was a dumb move. But it got
Yeah.
them what they wanted, didn't it?
And Patrick, I get this perspective as well, and that was kind of my first impression of that too, that they were taking pot shots, maybe not at the past writers, but at some of the choices in the past seasons. Um, and I get that, but it also felt very real to me somehow. I don't know. It felt
Mm,
like fitting with their characters, but I also get that, and I get the kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that thing. So
yeah.
yeah. Um, we'll come back to Riker and Troy because I have things to say about when Worf shows up, but we gotta save
Yeah.
that because
Uh-huh.
oh my god. Um, so back on the Titan, we've got Vatic threatening to kill a crew member every 10 minutes until Jack turns himself in or someone takes him to the bridge or whatever. Um, this was genuinely harrowing to me. This whole scene with Mira and Esmar and I mean, and this is after we get kind of Jack mind jacking Mira. I love that. To put in Picard's override codex, and she discovers this and knows that Jack has this ability already. So that's figuring into whatever's going on. But this whole threatening first of Mira and who's going to miss you, my son, and Esmar, who are you? What's your name? And she's terrified. And then of course the part that I just absolutely hated And I mean, part of me in the back of my mind, I was like, if this was old school Trek, what they might have done was like threaten these two and then kill someone we've never met before.
Mm.
But instead, unceremoniously just killing Tavine. And I would have been heartbroken to lose Mira, Esmar, or Tavine, but we didn't even get a goodbye with Tavine. She's just gone. That was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great
'Cause you know
choices by
me.
the writers, I have to say,
Yeah.
like, but yeah, that
Yeah.
hurt. And it was supposed to hurt.
Yeah, because there were some people, that we hadn't seen before, along with the bridge crew, and I'm just like, no, they're gonna make this hurt. They're gonna make this hurt. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that they were gonna do a bait and switch, but I did not expect it to be Tavine. And don't take my Vulcans from me. Why do you keep taking my Vulcans from me?
Mm.
So hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was brutal. Brutal. That's the best way to put it. Absolutely. She seemed, I mean, I don't want to rank the characters or whatever other than their actual ranks, but she seemed like, of all the like interviews and stuff, she seemed the most enthusiastic and kind of the coolest character. I like the other characters too, and I want to learn more about them, but I was just always really fascinated with Tavine. And man, maximal hurtage with killing
Yep.
her off.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurt me greatly.
Um so yeah, this is all happening in open comms and stuff, so Picard and Crusher and Jack are all hearing what's happening, and like it's obviously having an effect, and Jack is literally ready to trade himself. And Picard has a really good point that once they have you, they're just going to destroy the ship. Like, that's not, everyone's dead if you do that anyway. Which is a good point. And if I was in Jack's place, I would have a hard time listening to that too,
Yeah. Well,
Psychological warfare is working, is what I'm saying.
yeah, and that's the thing, is that Vatic knew that it would. The thing is, the long term, like if Jack hadn't come up, Vatic would have just kept killing people. But then what happens when there's no one left to kill?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's always the flaw in plans like this. It's like, yeah, you can just keep killing people, but you still might not get what you want, and then you have no more leverage. What's your plan then?
Yeah.
But she was relying on, the emotional sensibilities of humans, and it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Wellington, that you better kill yourself rather than give in to Vatic. That's kind of the gambit that works later when Jack goes to the bridge, and he's holding what looks like a thermal detonator from the crossing universes here.
It's a little smaller than a thermal detonator, but yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for 3PO to he's holding a thermal detonator.
Yeah, our brains all went there. Anybody who's ever seen the original Star Wars trilogy probably went there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that kind of is the gambit that Jack is doing later, not revealing what this device actually is, but I do know it'll kill me, kind of thing. So but before we get there though, we've got them realizing that we've got to try and override the lockout. I can't do that. We need something that can do trillions of calculations per second, and light bulbs go
90
off.
trillion. Yes.
Yep. Light bulbs go off, and they go to find, sorry, I need to look up the name again. Daystrom Android M510. Let's just say
Right.
Data. Let's just say Data. Or Data Lord, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just go there. Yeah, it's fine.
We all did. Yeah.
Fair.
Yep. For sure, for sure. So yeah, they go to find Data, and again, like I want to go back from the beginning of this season. Is every episode, is there a dig on Chateau Picard?
Kinda.
Yeah, I
It
think so. At
seems like
least like
it.
the last four.
Mhm.
But yeah, Geordi, they come in. They don't know if anybody's changelings, of course. And Geordi says, "You gave me a gift for my wedding anniversary on Rigel. What was it?" So it was a Chateau Picard, a Bordeaux that you claimed was too dry because your taste in wine is pedestrian at best. Yeah, it's Picard.
Oh, well,
That was fun.
yeah, it was. But there are quite a few digs at Chateau Picard throughout
Hmm.
this. But he's moving out of the winery, isn't he? So, you know.
I feel like this is a concerted effort on everyone's part to be like, don't go back to your old quiet, life. Get back out there, be an admiral. Whatever. They all got together and they're like, we're gonna like manipulate him. Anyway.
And rightly so, because honestly, how is he not bored out of his mind making wine?
Hmm.
I mean, really, let's think about it.
Yeah.
So bored.
So from there, what we get is this battle basically between Data and Lore for control of this body. They have that partition that's separating them. Geordi lifts the partition so that hopefully Data can triumph over Lore. And I like how everything is kind of put in these martial terms, like they're going to fight, they're going to battle for supremacy. But of course, what actually happens is just quintessential Data. And I loved it. So yeah, we've got them. Lore is seeming to just destroy all of Data's memories, right? These objects that define who he is. We have, his Sherlock Holmes costume and pipe, and the little hologram of Tasha Yar, which so great to see. Obviously, that was wonderful. Got a little bit of Denise Crosby in the series here. That was cool.
Yep. Well, if they had not referenced her at some point, I would have been very upset. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that they did it, and they did it in that way. That means something to Data still.
Yeah. And so when this was happening and Laura was taking the things, like I immediately my thought was, oh, he's taking all of these things into him and he's going to become Data, right? Data's going to
Mhm.
take over from the inside, kind of thing, which is kind of what happens. I liked that it was predicated on Lore's actions, though, and
Mhm.
how well Data knew Lore. So, the deck of cards representing friendship, he takes that and seems to destroy it. And then Spot, of course, this final thing that defines who Data is. As Patrick says, Spot was the key, and
Mhm.
he takes it, and Data correctly realizes that Lore would see those as trophies and not destroy them. But he has this acquisitive nature to him. He must control and dominate. He can't just you know destroy, kind of thing. So I loved that. I thought that was wonderful. And also tying it into what exactly does he say? You have had nothing while I have had everything. And I love that kind of acknowledgement of the shortcomings that Laura has experienced, and that because of his nature, that kind of is what kicked it off, but it didn't help, right? Like it continued
Mhm.
him down this path of becoming more and more cruel. um there was the shoot, where's the line? Okay, this is what Lore says: while I was left abandoned alone, you were showered with all the love and friendship the galaxy could offer. What a waste. You can't even feel enough to enjoy it. I love that.
Yeah. Well, it all goes back to what I said last week about how, Lore is the way he is because of how he grew up.
Mm,
I mean, he didn't choose his programming when he was, for all intents and purposes, born. And yeah, it is a terrible thing to feel discarded.
mhm,
And people can go one of two ways when that happens. They can either turn to wanting to have control over their own situation, which is what Lore did, or they can they can figure out what makes them happy and figure out what their path is, even though the people who should have been on their side weren't.
mhm.
And I can tell you which path's harder.
Yeah.
The choosing to, figure out what makes you happy, even though the people who should have supported you didn't, that's harder. That's a lot harder. And I'm not surprised that Lore went the way that he did. And I still feel sympathy for him on that regard. Now, I'm not excusing any of his actions or what he did, but I understand why he did them.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's no, oh, I can't think of the word, but, there's no excusing it, but
Mm-hmm.
there is understanding. And like you say, and I think that is an important lesson that is really hard most of the time, but it's something that we have to kind of strive for and remember. And that final embrace between Lore and
Mm,
Data, um, and Data says goodbye, brother, and Lore says goodbye, brother, and disappears. And that was like, I didn't think I'd feel heartache for Lore, but there it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I appreciated the way that Data did it and how he basically did it with love. He
Hmm.
he gave all of the things that he loved to Lore, giving him all the things that he had always wanted but never had. So when
Yeah.
Data says, I've had everything and you have had nothing, he means that literally. And so he literally, you know, well, positronically, really, gives all these things to Lore. And then what does Lore become? Lore becomes Data.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was perfect.
Yeah. And I feel like Lore will always be there inside Data because he wasn't
Mm.
destroyed, right? Like he was
Incorporated.
incorporated into Data. Like Wellington just said, we are me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of thinking of like that'll give him more of an insight into humanity and emotional, and the dark side of stuff too. Like I'm thinking of Esri consulting Duran Dax in
Mm-hmm.
season 7 of DS9, right? Like, is Lore in there giving what Data says is his a little bit of positronic joie de vivre?
Yeah.
Like that sounded Lorish. Like there's some
Mm.
lore in there for sure, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting incorporating all of these personalities into one being. And it kind of makes me think of the different personalities we take on depending on who we're with. Because we kind of all do
Mm-hmm.
that. We have like our work persona, and we have our friend persona, and we have our just at home persona. And
Yeah.
yeah, that changes depending on our environment. So we've only got 2 episodes left, so I'm not sure how much of that we're going to get to see with Data, but I'm happy he's gotten to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like little things like he kind of cocks his head like he used to always do, and then he's like, "Oh, this is new." Like he's so excited.
He feels pain, like physical pain.
Yeah, I love
That's
it.
going to be interesting.
Hmm. um, and then of course they plug him back into the ship, and he's like, "Say no more. I've got this." And I just there's so many great lines in this episode. I loved his
So many.
"Greetings, USS Titan. This is your friendly positronic pissed off security system. Back online. Unwanted guests and monologuing protoplasms. I am initiating an immediate shift change."
So great. So great.
I love it.
Friendly positronic pissed off security system.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So that's an interesting question. I think like Soji is still out there doing her thing, apparently. Daj, I think, is gone for all intents and purposes.
Well,
And
she was disintegrated, yeah.
yeah, like she's
Don't think there were any backups of her positronic net.
Don't think so. And Data's mom, she's still out there just thinking she's human, I think. Unless something else has happened that we haven't seen. That would be interesting. Because I think the only people who knew about her, unless like Noonien Soong left notes to Alton Soong or anything like that, was like Data and the Enterprise crew, I think. Unless he let slip to someone else, I guess. But
yeah, I don't know. Those are threads they didn't really touch on.
Mm-hmm. But interesting question. I like the thinking about it. Yeah. 7 of 9's Air Force One moment. Yes. That was wonderful. So that whole scene, we've got Data taking control and Picard saying open the emergency hatch, and that device, it turns out, projects this nice little force field bubble. So that was handy. Big enough for 7 as well, so that's good. She I'm glad that choice didn't doom her to stay on the bridge. By the way, when she stays on the bridge, that was an interesting choice. When she says to Shaw, he's like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Accepting the consequences," based on kind of the conversation they had earlier where, Shaw was like, "You should have blown the turbo lift." And she said, "I'm not willing to trade lives." She says, "Well, you have to accept the consequences now. Like, you may have doomed us all," kind of thing. Interesting little arc for 7 in this episode. But yeah, the line that I can't quite repeat on here because of monetization issues and stuff. Vadic's final line is maybe one of my favorite lines in all of Star Trek now.
Well,
just
you could
she
choose
says it too.
Yeah, you could borrow from a couple of other science fiction franchises. You could go with fracking or frelling, either way.
But just the way she kind of like almost out the side of her mouth, she's like, "Fracking solids." Poof. Oh, that was great. That was wonderful.
Just this and this knowledge in her eyes, like you can see it in her eyes that she knows exactly what's about to happen.
Yeah. So I've seen some people wondering about her in space because we've seen changelings fly through space and stuff before. I personally think it has to do with how they were altered. That's one of the trade-offs for being able to mimic a solid so perfectly, is also this, tendency to freeze in space and shatter when hitting the side of your ship.
Yeah. Excuse me. I even turned to Dave and I said, "She's not going to pull a T1000, is she?" Is she going to pull a T1000? I really don't want that.
Yeah. Well, with just speaking physics wise, unless each piece has some way of propelling itself very well, they're all just expanding in outward directions infinitely. So
well, it hit the Shrike though, and they blow up the Shrike, so don't think all the pieces are still there. Have you noticed too that every time we see the Shrike, there's a tuba around? It's just like
that's actually the blaster beam instrument that was used in Star Trek the Motion Picture for V'ger. That's
Oh, okay.
yeah, that bong thing. Yeah.
It just sounds like a tuba to me.
Yeah. I love that. I thought that was cool. Just that instrument, interestingly invented by Craig Huxley, who played Kirk's nephew in Operation Annihilate and
Oh yeah,
Tommy
yeah.
Starnes in the worst episode of Star Trek ever, and The Children Shall Lead. Yeah. Just weird little Star Trek connections everywhere.
Yeah, just so weird. So
Yeah.
very weird.
Yeah, fracking solids. Man,
Yeah.
that was great. And yeah, we've got the same cliffhanger at the end of this episode that we did with the last episode. Okay. The clues around Jack. There are some theories out there. I don't know which one, but there was one theory that, like, when I first heard it, I was like, there's no way. But now I'm like kind of coming around to it with some of the things that Troy says in this episode. So cards on the table. The theory I'm talking about is that there's a Pa Wraith,
Mhm.
something to do with the Pa Wraiths, and there's splinter theories around that have to do with like the Dominion fleet and the wormhole and stuff. I don't know, like that may be stretching a bit, but
Mm.
the Pa Wraiths thing is interesting given what Troy says. She says things like, there's a darkness about Jack, not inside him, but around him, passing through him. A voice inside him, ancient and weak, a voice that isn't his own.
Mhm.
The ancient and weak thing made me kind of go like, maybe there's something to this. I don't know. Do you have a
Yeah.
Jack theory?
No, actually, I'm coming around to the same theory at this point because, especially when at the end and she's going up to that door and puts her hand on the doorknob, and you see through the keyhole this light that kind of looks like fire, and you know where the paw race are hiding
Yeah.
out in the fire caves. And the last time we've really seen those was when Ducat was yeeted into them, and so it's just I'm kind of coming around to that idea. But the whole thing is why? That's what I don't understand. Why? How and why? And what does it have to do with Jack's ability? Or is that ability because of the power rate? I don't know. You still haven't given me any answers. Episode 8 of 10. Come on.
So the face that's communicating with Vatic, then, could that be Ducat?
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. What? Oh,
I know.
brain.
I don't know.
I can't. Just wow.
It weirds me out that if any of this is even close to approaching the truth, the fact that there's only 2 episodes left to like introduce that and pay it off seems, I don't know.
Seems crowded. It's I just don't know. I just don't know.
And Jean-Luc's body, they removed bits of his brain, parts of his parietal lobe that were infected with Irmotic syndrome. What's
Which is
that
now in
about?
question, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just like
something to do with his experience with the Borg, or not? Like, it's weird that it could be any one of a bunch of things, and we still have nothing that's like definitively pointing one way or the other.
Maybe it's all of the things.
It could be.
All of them are just a piece of the puzzle, and yet we don't have the key pieces to figure it out. It's like we've got the border, of the puzzle, but basically the whole inside of it is still missing.
Yeah. And like all things kind of being equal, Tristan, I kind of agree with you. Like, it feels like that's too much.
Yeah, it just it seems like, yeah, you've already made a correction to Deep Space Nine, connection, excuse me.
Mhm.
And I just don't know. So what else? What else are we missing? What else? What
Mhm.
other weird thing from another Star Trek series could possibly correlate with what we have going on here?
Yeah. Or is it just something totally new? Like,
I don't know. That's the thing. There's not enough information.
it's frustrating.
I feel like I'm reading a freaking Sherlock Holmes novel where everything is kept, or we're not given enough clues to figure it out ourselves. And so at the very end, it's like, ha ha ha, main character explains it all with information that was never given to us. And now we are made to feel stupid. So, yeah, this, as you might have
Well,
guessed, I do not like Sherlock Holmes novels.
we've already brought up "And the Children Shall Lead," so I'm gonna say it's the Gorgon. It's
The
Oh god, Aravic. Yeah, it's just Damon Bach messing with Picard again.
Yeah, that guy.
Oh
What are you gonna
man.
do? Yeah,
Miri. Yeah,
I don't know.
sure. Why not Miri? Okay.
Mhm. Sure, okay, yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I don't know.
All right, let's talk. Yes, Gorgon needs a better shower curtain this time.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, I mentioned this earlier and we never got back to it. I need to talk about Worf coming to Deanna and Will's rescue. That whole scene was so delightful, especially given that like Worf and Deanna had a previous intimate relationship, and
Mm.
just all of that was so great. Um, oh man, I need to get the exact quote here. Deanna, I have counted the days since I last saw you, like waves in the ocean, constant and unending. I have thought of your empathic gifts often during my self-evaluation. Well, that's wonderful, Worf. Inappropriate. That whole exchange is so good.
Oh.
First of all, I just love Deanna being like beacon for Worf in his growth, and like that's wonderful. That's awesome. That's so good. Riker just like, what is going on? And Deanna's like, well, like he's growing.
Mhm.
And Worf going on about, how he's grown as a person and become more sensitive, and Riker's like, is this just a continuation of the torture? That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there
It
we
was
go. This a rescue or a continuation of the torture?
mm. Yeah. See, that's one of those things, like the whole Worf and Deanna thing was never something I liked, wanted, or understood. How did
Mhm.
he not break her during sex? Come on. We know what Klingons are like in bed. I mean,
You
how
don't
many
give
times did
you don't give
Jadzia
enough credit to Deanna. She can hold her own.
I'm sorry, but how many times was Jadzia in sickbay for broken or fractured bones after having relations with Worf? It was a lot. It was a
Mhm.
lot. It was a lot. Anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
I mean,
It's,
I agree. I never thought they were the best fit for sure, but I do really like the acknowledgement of it here, and like the
yeah.
fact that it is something that did happen. And I don't know. I love that, like, if things had happened in a different order, I feel like now Worf and Deanna would be a really good fit. And if like things had gone differently and like that relationship started now, it'd be like perfect. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Me, okay. Could Worf, Riker, and Deanna make a really good throuple? I'm just throwing it out there.
You
I'm
know,
I'm saying a V relationship, not a triangle relationship.
I don't care either way. Whatever they want to do is fine. Um, with Worf the way he is now, I think it could work. So, but it would all be up to Riker. It would all be down to really whether he would be willing to share. And if he's not, then that's that, I guess. He doesn't seem very willing to share, despite how she had to share him with everything in a skirt. But that was interestingly enough, if you haven't watched the Ready Room already, you really should, because there's this whole thing about the evolution of Riker and Troy's relationship. And it's interesting hearing from both Marina Sirtis and also Jonathan Frakes, especially Jonathan Frakes. Like, he was flat out, he's like, I never understood the Worf thing. That was not okay with me. and they were both talking about how, well, not only how much they trusted each other, but also how much fun they had working together, and also how they always kept that flame alive, even though the bigwigs didn't want that. They wanted Riker to be another Kirk, sleeping with everything. And though that was in the script, they still put in their own little things and kept pissing off the bigwigs all of those years because they believed that Riker and Troy should be together. And that warms my soul.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I'm assuming this is directed at me. Fair.
You know, I can't say that that I hadn't thought about that. So,
yeah.
You know, it's really within Gene's vision for the future. You know, everybody
absolutely.
has sex with everybody. So
Yeah.
whenever they want. And it's all fine.
Yeah.
As long as everyone's consenting, it's good.
I mean, honestly, the people I know that are in relationships like that, it's a matter of scheduling. It's just,
it really is.
Anyway, we'll put that to one side. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at here. I think we've covered just about everything. The one thing I will say is I'm in total agreement with Trek Culture in their video where they talk about so Worf rescues them. They go to the command area or that computer area on the Shrike, and Raffi says, "Don't worry, it's still me." And Worf's like, "Okay, we're clear." That's not how changeling checks go. No. Raffi could be a changeling from now on now.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, it's possible, but unlikely.
Yeah.
I think. So I also really liked Raffi and Troy together, and Raffi's like, Raffi, she's like, Deanna, strange days, huh?
You're telling me.
just and I'm like, yeah, that's the ladies getting it done.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and I should talk about the conference room scene. We have them all around the conference table, shot very similarly to how they were shot during TNG. I love that. That was great.
Yes. And the fact that they're acknowledging that on screen to each other, their characters are. So, but again, why the ladies sitting at the end of the table? Come on.
I also love that it's just the TNG crew sitting around the table. Shaw is like screw this. I'm gonna go take a shower and a nap. Like I'm out.
Well, he needs both. He needs both. I mean, that dude has been through a lot, physically, and emotionally, and mentally. And I do love how he just when the evacuation hatch is closed and atmosphere reinstated, and they let everyone out of the observation lounge, and he just struts right up to the chair and sits down, leans forward, stations, and just and he hands off the destruction of the Shrike to Seven, who's got an axe to grind too, and he's still calling her Hanson. Dude, read the room, okay? She even says to his face, "My name is 7 of 9." She didn't shout it, and it was somehow more menacing because she said it so soft. And I truly, truly hope that by episode 10, we get a 7 out of him.
I think we will. I feel like we'll get that. I'm almost glad it wasn't in this episode. Like he's just because I do love that scene. I love when Seven asserts her name there and almost through gritted teeth. My name is 7 of 9. And then the camera goes back to Shaw and he doesn't even acknowledge it. He says, "You've
Mhm.
done this," and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, that's in his brain. It's gotten in there, but it hasn't taken root yet. And I think we'll get that moment at some point. I do love that he hands off, like you said, the order to destroy the Shrike to Seven. And we need one good delivery of Seven yelling "Red Alert" just to see if she's at quite the Riker level, because her fire
Mhm.
is on point. That is a perfect
Mhm.
first officer. Fire! It was great.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I like it.
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at, where Deanna and Jack are stepping through the red door, I guess. I feel like that might be a terrible idea. I don't
Well,
know. We need
it's
to
got to be
know, but
done.
yeah.
I mean, what happens whenever we see a door in somebody's mind?
Mhm.
It's going to get opened. It's going to get
Yeah.
opened. Might as well do it on your own terms instead of being forced through it.
Yeah, for sure.
I still
Well,
think that the voices are the great link.
mm, yeah, that's
But
the other thing that people were saying, like the Pa Wraith thing, is because it's been Crusher's voice and Seven's voice the first time and stuff. And like that's how the prophets communicate, is by using familiar faces and
mm,
voices. So it's like, oh, okay, like I see the logic there. I don't know, I'm
well,
not
well,
convinced, but I'm more
yeah,
open to it than I was, because I don't know.
it could be the prophets trying to reconnect to the paw wraiths,
Hmm.
because there's the whole connect the branches thing from way, way, way back early in the season. Hmm. Anyway, I don't know. Honestly, I don't really want it to be paw wraiths, but
Yeah.
again, whole big part of the puzzle missing. Yeah,
I
4 minutes away.
I love this, because like every episode, the last like 3 or 4 episodes, they said first Frontier Day is only hours away, and it's like 36 hours away, and blah blah blah. And yeah, this episode got another, it's only a few hours away. It's a lot
Yeah.
packed into a few days here.
Well, that depends on your definition of few, because few usually means 2 to 3. If you're 4 or more, it's several. So I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
it's 3 hours away. Um,
Ugh.
just
What's that?
and please, 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 please give us something in the next episode,
Yeah.
please,
Yeah.
please.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not pinning all my hopes on it, because I don't want to be disappointed, but they've got to give us something, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
They really do. They really do. I know there was an exclusive clip for the next episode on the Ready Room, and I'll be honest, we haven't gotten screeners yet for episodes 9 and 10, so I am flying blind like everybody else, and so is Dan.
Hmm.
But that scene was Deanna going through the door and then breaking contact and getting up and telling him how sorry she was and being
Oh
very
God.
upset and leaving the room and not telling him anything else. Basically, we are all Jack in this situation right now because nobody's telling us anything about what's behind the door.
Dang it.
So that's what it was. That's all it was. So.
Oh man. Well, on that note, final thoughts and ratings for Surrender. And of course, as always, that goes for our fellow fans in the chat.
Yeah. This episode for me had moments of deep satisfaction and also moments of continuing frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not truly angry about it, but I really I need some resolution. I need some information. I want you to stop withholding information. Stop being a Sherlock Holmes novel. And that's another interesting thing. Brent Spiner always wanted to play Sherlock Holmes, and so when they did Elementary, My Dear Data, he was super excited about that, like ridiculously excited, because he grew up watching the Basil Rathbone movies, and he just really wanted to play that character, and then he got to do that as Data. So lucky boy. Anyway, I will give this a friendly, positronic, pissed off security system as a rating.
That's a really good rating. Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed this episode, as frustrating as some parts of this story are. The lack of answers is something that's frustrating. The death of Tavine, I think, I wouldn't say it's frustrating. It hurts, but that's the sign of, I think, a well-written episode and interesting characters. Is losing that character hurts. So
Agreed.
I can't fault the episode for it, because it's making me feel things, which is what good entertainment is supposed to do. But
Yes.
dang it, I like
Yeah.
Tavine.
So did I.
Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was satisfying. The way they brought Data back, I thought was really satisfying in a way that I didn't think I'd feel about having Data back. But I'm on board. Like, it's a new chapter. It's something new. I don't know how much we'll get with Data beyond these next 2 episodes. I don't see him being in Star Trek much after that, but it's possible now. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Aravic, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Lots of Soong type androids out there, apparently. Could be more prototypes too, like before. So, yeah, I'm going to give this episode 1 cloud of infinitely expanding shards of Vatic. Satisfying rating, I think.
Indeed.
No. Lots of great ratings here. Yeah, what's with all the Chateau Picard hate? I love it. I think it's hilarious.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Good times.
Blind Mice, I like that. Nice. Yeah, great ratings. And yeah, we only have 2 episodes left. The next episode is titled Vox, which Latin for voice. So interesting.
We're going to find out maybe where those voices are coming from.
Yeah.
Maybe.
See, now my brain is just like making connections. And like, it's like locutus is Latin for speaker, right? Like that's so vox, Latin for voice. Is there anyway? That way lies madness. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen, but
there are too many choices. That's the problem. It's like they're not narrowing it down for us at all, and that is supremely frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm really excited to figure out where the heck everything goes. 2 episodes left. We got to start getting some more answers and resolution here. So, Brandi, if people want to talk to you about what's going on in Star Trek, where can they find you online?
Well, I'm around here and there. I'm on social media, but I don't monitor it as much as I used to, simply because it can be a really big time sink. But I'm sorry, my voice is so scratchy. I don't know what's going on there. So you can find me on Twitter at Brandywine12, and you can find me on Mastodon at Brandywine at ravenation.club. And that's and I'm on Instagram as just Brandi Jackola. So if you want to go look at my Instagram, I haven't posted anything on Instagram in a really long time. I'm there for Todd Stashwick's morning coffee chats. That's why I'm there.
That's all. Speaking of Todd Stashwick, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but at the end of the month, my wife and I are going to the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo, and they just announced Todd Stashwick is going to be there. And
I'm so jealous.
I didn't get media passes this time around because when it was time for us to buy tickets, they hadn't announced any Star Trek guests, and now Jonathan Frakes and Todd Stashwick are going to be there, and I'm kicking myself for not going there as media, try and get an interview, but oh well. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Kurtrats and on Mastodon at kurtrats@mstdn.ca, and the Positively Trek podcast, which is still a lot of fun. We enjoy doing that. Come join the Positively Trek discussion group on Facebook. We'd love to have you there to talk about all things Trek. Of course, dominating the conversation right now is Star Trek Picard. That's the big thing. Yeah, Todd Stashwick, Ricky, he's gonna be there. It's amazing.
And here, the funny thing is I wouldn't want to talk Trek with him. I want to talk Dungeons and Dragons with him.
There you go.
Have you seen his game room? Good Lord.
Oh man. Oh, so cool. He seems like just the best person. I'm excited. But yeah, much love, everyone. Thank you, Tristan. I love that sentiment. Much love to everyone out there. Have a great Easter weekend, those of you who celebrate, and have a wonderful week leading up to our last 2 episodes of Star Trek Picard. I'm sad that it's going to be done, but I also just really want answers. So
yeah,
as usual,
same.
I'm torn.
Yep.
So yeah, I can't do it with the left hand. Live logs and prosper, everyone. And live long and prosper.